Is that working? Yes, it is working. Look at that. Just turn it on. Did you manage to get the slides working? Or that's fine. That's fine. I didn't have many. We can wing it. And if they appear behind me, that's an added bonus. So, as has been said many times already this morning, our theme for this morning is love one another, which is from, I didn't introduce myself, sorry. Hi, my name's Nerida. For those of you who don't know me, in case you're like, who's this person who's suddenly up the front? It was Russell and bam, it was me. Thank you. It's blue, yeah. They probably didn't even notice the switch because of the blue t-shirts. Yeah, seamless. We're working our way through Romans chapter 12 at the moment. And Stephen started us off talking about those first couple of verses, in view of God's mercies, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, to not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And that's where the chapter kicks off. And then Russell spoke last week about us as the body of Christ and how we're all given different gifts and the need to use those gifts to encourage and support one another. And I am now going to talk about the next little section, which is about love. And it follows on, I was just having a look at the verses. Russell spoke about the gifts, and they're listed there. If your gift is prophecy, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If serving, then serve. If teaching, then teach. And there's another place in the Bible where these gifts are listed. Paul lists these gifts in a very similar way, and that's in 1 Corinthians. Once again, it lists all the gifts, and then it says, but let's do the most excellent way. And as Russell mentioned, it goes into that very famous chapter on love, 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, love is self-controlled, doesn't envy, doesn't boast. And in here, Paul does exactly the same thing. He lists the gifts, and then the very next verse is love must be sincere. And it's this idea that the gifts are important. We are the body of Christ, and we all have different talents and skills that we bring and that are needed. But as 1 Corinthians says, if it's not done in love, it's all worthless. It's love must be sincere, as it says here in Romans. So I'm just going to read. Did we ever get it working? That's fine. I can just read it to you. And if you brought a Bible along, then you can follow along. And if not, you'll just have to listen and we can make this work. So Romans 12, Holly's already read it, verse 9 to 13. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. And to me, if you just read those just as those few verses, it just basically sounds like a to-do list. But the context of Romans, as mentioned in the first week, is it's written to an actual church. And if you read the last chapter of Romans, it's got a whole lot of greetings to different people. It's just a list of greetings, but there's a mixture of names, of Greek names and of Roman names and of Jewish names. This is a church of difference, like all good churches should be, of people coming from all different backgrounds, different opinions, different theological understandings, different personalities. And so these list of instructions are in that context of how to live in community and how to be the body and how to serve God in community. I'm just going to work through the passage just slowly, and then I'm going to try and nail it down to a real life example. I'm going to work through the passage quickly, and then nail it down to a real life example. So love must be sincere. I mean, it can't be fake. We can do these gifts, but if it's not done in love, it's just fake. Hate what is evil, cling to what is good. In this sort of context, we're looking at what is evil. It's things like division and lies and jealousy, and to cling to love and to kindness. Disagreements came in the Roman church and disagreements come in our church, but how do we cling to what is good in the midst of that? Honour one another above yourselves. Be prepared to listen, to say sorry, to reconsider your own opinion, and that the other person might have a reason for believing what they believe in. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour, serving the Lord. Paul could have said, honour one another above yourselves, and don't stress about anything else. Nothing else really matters. But it does matter. The things that we discuss, our theological disagreements, our personality clashes, the pressures from the outside, like life does actually matter. These things aren't, I think there's a tendency to just go, it's fine, Jesus loves us, I love you, nothing else matters. And that's just not true. These things matter. And here he's saying, be zealous, keep your spiritual fervour, serve God. These things are really, really important. It's really important that we follow him. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Luke's only been given those handful of words to preach on next week, so I won't say too much about them, otherwise I'll steal his sermon. But these are commands that we do in community. It's not just about, individually, be patient in faithful in prayer, be patient in suffering, but as a community, we do that with and for each other. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. We are there for one another. We are family. And practice hospitality. Hospitality means love for the stranger, which, means the person you've never met before, but it also means the person who is different from you. And I really like the definition of hospitality. It includes food, but it's not just limited to food. The idea of making space for people. So that might be making space at your table, but it's making space in your circles, making space in your time, in your schedule, making space in your conversation to listen. So making space for those who are different to you. And like I said, I'd like to now sort of pin that sort of on a real life example, because I was thinking about this, and again, just a list of instructions. But what does this actually look like in practice? And one really obvious example came to mind, and it's an example where I believe you as a church have done this really well. And, we can learn from the areas we make mistakes, but we can also learn when we do things well. And I just want to sort of preface this by saying this isn't prescriptive of how I think all, disagreements or differences should be handled, but I think it was a really beautiful example. So in this story, Luke and I are the strangers that were shown hospitality to without anyone lacking their spiritual zeal. Never made up there. That's fine. That's cool. So if you've been around here for very long, you will have heard us be mocked as the resident Lutherans, which, that's fair enough. So Luke and I grew up in the Lutheran church, and we've only recently swung to the dark side of Baptist. And I'll be honest, not all of our theology is actually particularly Lutheran, but it is our faith tradition, and it's something that we hold really, really dear. It's our heart language, I guess. It's where we first met Jesus. It's where we first learnt about God. And so a lot of the traditions and the practices we hold really, really dear. And there's always a little bit of us, no matter how you try, that'll be just a little bit Lutheran. But one of the theologies that we do hold really dear, and is particularly Lutheran, is that we were baptized as infants. I was baptized before I was a month old in a Lutheran church, and my baptism is really, really important to me. But when we were looking for a new church home, we were a little bit nervous because obviously different churches have different theologies around baptism. Now, this isn't a sermon about the theology of baptism at all, but I want to step back just in case there's people here that are, new to the Christian faith and they're like, what's she on about? So baptism is a core and central practice of the Christian church. Jesus commands us to go out and baptize believers. It's something that we all should do. However, he didn't give us a how-to guide of exactly what that looks like. So in different Christian traditions, there's many different takes on what that looks like. Practically, it means baptizing them in a Christian community in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit with water. But beyond that, I don't think Christians really agree on anything. And so, can it be done to infants, or does it have to be to adults who understand what it is they're agreeing to? Does it have to be full immersion, that you go fully under the water and come back up, or does it not matter? Is just a sprinkle of water okay? All of these things, and like I said, I'm not going to go into them at all, but they're actually all, like I said before, they're important questions. Jesus commanded us to baptize, and so it's actually not okay to go, it's fine, we'll just love each other, none of this matters. It does matter how we practice this and how we live this out, but we were very aware that we had a different opinion and a different theological stance to many congregations. And when we were visiting churches, we thought, how are people going to respond to that? How are people going to accept us? Are people going to reject us? Are they going to say we're not enough? What will that look like? In the membership paperwork at this church, for those of you who've become members recently, one of the questions is, tell us your baptismal story. And so we felt nervous as we wrote down our baptismal story. Will that be okay? This is something that's really important to us. Are we going to be told we're not enough? Are we going to be told we don't fit here? And I distinctly remember Tani came round to our house as a representative of the leadership at CBBC, and she talked to us a whole lot of range of things. We talked through the paperwork and just general questions that she had, that we had. But I distinctly remember her saying to us, the leadership want to know that we affirm your baptism story and we see the Holy Spirit at work in your life. Now, I know Tani personally, and I know her theological stance on baptism, but she welcomed us with open arms and said, we have differences, but you are welcome here. But then, because Luke and I, stir up trouble, we pushed you all a step further. At the beginning of 23, we had our daughter Eden, and we have had our other biological children baptized, and we wanted to get Eden baptized. But we were stuck because our theological view is that you baptize a child into a Christian family. And so we couldn't just go off and do it by ourselves, and you were our Christian family. But we were stuck because we knew that the majority of the people here, including the pastor's theological position, was that they didn't baptize infants. Also, we didn't want to drown her at the beach. That was another practical concern. It didn't look like a good thing to do to an infant. And so we were like, how do we go forward from here? And this time Stephen came around, because you've got to step up a bit higher when you're discussing these sorts of things. And he sat down and he had a chat to us. And I just want to reassure you all that you have a Baptist pastor. He made his view that when it comes to being adult and being fully immersed, you should get really, really wet. He was clear about that. But as he discussed, his take was less, is your theology right or wrong? While he made it clear his theological position, it was, have you thought through this? Is this something that's really important to you? Are you doing this just because it's what you've always done, and so you're just sort of going, well, we'll keep doing it? Or is this something that is really important to your faith? Having seen that it was something that was important to us, he said, all right, how are we going to work through this? And we thought, okay, there's a theological difference here. How do we come together? And the way forward that was proposed and agreed upon, and that many of you witnessed, was that we would have a dedication service here in the morning for Eden, and then we would have a baptismal service that we held at our previous Lutheran church, which many of you came to and supported us in. And it was just really beautiful. I just see those, love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, Be devoted to one another in love. Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour, serving the Lord. Worshipping with so many of you at our old Lutheran church, like worshipping God with you and singing, especially the singing at our daughter's baptism, it just, like, I felt the love. We felt the love. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. My point here is not to say that every unique situation should be walked through exactly like ours. My point is not that we were right to baptize our infant. I mean, a dedication and a baptism on the same day is a bit ridiculous. Let's all just admit that. That was a bit of a strange thing to do. That's not my point. My point is that we felt your love was sincere, and we felt like we belonged, and we will continue to journey with you. And maybe that's the end of the story, or maybe the story goes that we change our minds, or you change your minds, or we come, who knows? Who knows? The point is that we're on this journey together, and we're doing it in love without clinging to what is good. I want to bring this together with another image of baptism that you are all much more familiar with. On Easter Sunday last year, one of our members, Gabby, was baptised. For those of you who don't know her, she's a beautiful woman who'd walked a journey of faith towards God and then said, I want to commit my life to following him. And so she decided she wanted to be baptised. And she shared a bit of her testimony up here, and then we all, after the service, went down to the beach to witness her getting baptised, which is what we do here as a church family. And she had asked Julie and Tani to come into the water and baptise her. Now, I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but the day was freezing. It was windy, it was horrible, and actually during the week there'd been thunderstorms forecast. They didn't eventuate, but it was not a pleasant day. And no one, I just remember we were standing on the beach watching Gabby and Julie and Tani walk into the water, and Stephen was standing next to me and just like, Baptists are mad. There was no one else at the beach that day. It was just us. There was only 3 people who were stupid enough to walk into that freezing, freezing cold water. But what was really beautiful about it was that, and it's sad that the photo isn't there because you can tell from the body language of everyone walking into the water that they were not excited about the cold, wet nature of it. But Julie and Tani weren't complaining about baptising Gabby. There might have been some squeals as they walked into the water. I don't know, I wasn't that close. There might have even been a few swear words. Who knows? It was not pleasant. But they were honoured to walk into the water with Gabby. They wanted to be there. No one was going to talk them out of it. Yes, they wore wetsuits and they, were pretty keen to get a towel on when they came out, but they were going in with Gabby and they were going to come out with Gabby because that's where they wanted to be. They wanted to journey with her. And I think it's a really good analogy of what we do as Christians. We don't let people go out there on their own. You can't baptize yourself. Maybe people have done it, but you can't. You really can't baptize yourself. They couldn't just yell from the shoreline and in the name of the Father. No, you don't do that. You go out with them. As Christians, we do not let people walk through hard things on their own. We do not push people out just because they've got a different opinion or their personality bugs us or whatever it might be. We journey with people. We might have different opinions on how things should be done. There might be very real harm that we've done to each other that needs to be worked through, and there might be some negotiation that needs to happen. But as a church family, we don't abandon people because, above all, love must be sincere, and sincere sometimes means getting cold and wet. We might wish the weather was warmer, we might wish things are more sincere, but first and foremost, we go in with them. On the flip side, we also don't go in on our own. When we have things that we are struggling with, when we have questions, when we have pain or shame or conflict in our marriage or difficulties at work or financial issues, Gabby could have not told anyone she wanted to get baptized and just snuck down there in the middle of the night and baptized herself and then been grumpy at us that we hadn't gone with her. That would make no sense. No, what she did is she came and said, this is what I want, and gave people the opportunity to go in with her. So it goes both ways, that we share with each other where we need people to walk with us, what we're struggling with. And then the other photo that I had was just of the three of them coming out of the water looking really cold and wet and soggy. And actually, they're probably glad the photos aren't up there because it was really unflattering. But anyway, but they were like, they had massive grins on their faces. They were laughing. When we go through these experiences, we go with someone through a death and a resurrection, or we wrestle through these hard things in relationship, the joy when we come out the other side is so, so worth it. And I guess here's the thing. When someone is baptized, who actually does the work of baptizing? The Father, Son, and Spirit. Tani and Julie in this example were just there for the journey. They didn't actually, Julie said the words, they did the tipping, but they were just there. It was God who actually did the work. He was the one who's sanctifying and redeeming and healing and making whole. And they're just there for the journey, because when we think about where is Jesus, he's out there amongst all of us, out there in the community. He's loving people. He's hating what is evil and clinging to what is good. He's honoring others above himself, serving and washing feet. He's never lacking in zeal. He's joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and he's interceding for us right now. He's sharing with those in need. And we know that he's out there making space for strangers. He is out there wading out into the cold water with each and every one of us, with each and every one of his children. And he just turns around and is like, come follow me. Come out and walk with with your brothers and sisters. Come journey with us. And so when I look at love must be sincere, it's not something that you can do from a distance. It's something that we do together as community, and without it, nothing else is really worthwhile. I'm going to invite the band up to finish. We sung the blessing song. What's it called? Just the blessing? Your blessing, yeah. Sung the blessing earlier, and we're just going to wrap up and sing it as the blessing. Oh, that wasn't me, I don't think. Cool. Anyway, but as we sing it, I just want you, like as Holly said, like this is a worship song, but we're not actually singing it to God. We're singing it to each other. So as you sing it, I want you to think about the fact that you are singing it to everyone here. These are the people that you are blessing. These are your Christian family. And there might be wider people that you are singing it to as well. But I've asked if we could just turn the singers down a little bit, because not only that, but